Hi, welcome back. We're looking at solving equations in this set of videos. In the last video, we looked at going back and forth between verbal and algebraic expressions. In this video, we are going to be looking at properties of equality. Properties of equality are really important. They are the rules that allow us to actually go through the process of solving an equation. When we're solving an equation, we are looking at making true statements. Making true statements means that if I have a statement that is currently true, I can only perform an operation on that equation that continues to make a true statement. If I change the statement, it's no longer a true statement. We'll look at what that means in a few minutes, but for right now, we're going to talk about properties of equality. The properties of equality we're going to look at in this video are the reflexive property of equality, symmetric, transitive, substitution, addition and subtraction, and multiplication, division. The reflexive property is for any real value, real number A. For all of these, A, B, and C are real numbers. That's going to be the case for all of these properties, so I'm not going to write that down for everything. So for any real number A, the reflexive property says that A is equal to A. What that means is that if I have B plus 12, it's still equal to B plus 12. So some algebraic expression is equal to itself. The next property is the symmetric property. In this property, if A is equal to B, then B is equal to A. This property allows us to switch things around. So if 18 is equal to negative 2n plus 4, I can rewrite this as negative 2n plus 4 is equal to 18. The symmetric property is really helpful when I'm solving because I tend to like to have my variables on the left-hand side when I'm solving, and they won't always be there. So it's nice for me to be able to just flip the two sides of my equation so that I'm looking at my equation in a form I like. The transitive property says that if A is equal to B and B is equal to C, then A is equal to C. The key part with this property is that I have two different expressions that are equal to the same value, so I can kind of sandwich these outer two together. So if A is equal to B and B is equal to C, then A must be equal to C. An example of this is if 5x plus 3 is equal to 48 and 48 is equal to 7x minus 15, then 5x plus 3 is equal to 7x minus 15. If both of these statements are true, 48 is equal to both of these algebraic expressions, so they must be equal. The substitution property says that if A is equal to B, then A may replace B and B may replace A. An example of this is that if I have 6 plus 1 times x is equal to 21, I know that 6 plus 1 is equal to 7. So anywhere I see 6 plus 1, I can replace it with 7. So I'm substituting 7 in for 6 plus 1 and getting 7x equals 21. The addition and subtraction properties of equality say that if A is equal to B, then A plus C is equal to B plus C, or A minus C is equal to B minus C. So if I have a true statement of A equals B, and I add a real number to each side, the same real number to each side, or subtract it, I still have a true statement. So what that looks like is if I have x minus 6 is equal to 14, I can add 6 to each side and then substitute, and this is still a true statement. The value that makes this statement true is the same value that makes this statement true. So I can add and subtract the same value to each side of an equation. And for multiplication and division, this is if A is equal to B, then A divided by C is equal to B divided by C, and A times C is equal to B times C. So what that looks like is if I have x divided by 8 is equal to -7, I can multiply each side of the equation by 8, and I get a true statement. This is still a true statement down here because of the multiplication property of equality. Now, if we go through an example of just identifying properties, not really solving, but just naming properties, if 2g minus h is equal to 62 and h is equal to 24, then 2g minus 24 is equal to 62. Well, 24 replaced h, so this is going to be the substitution property of equality. And I'm going to use POE for property of equality. If -11a plus 2 is equal to -3a, then -3a is equal to -11a plus 2. The two things flipped sides, so this is going to be the symmetric property of equality. (3x plus 4 is equal to -2. Subtract 4 from each side and get 3x equals -6. This I subtracted the same value from each side, so this is the subtraction property of equality. And here I had 2x equals -6. Divide both sides by 2, and I get x equals -3. This is the multiplication property of equality. So that's identifying the properties. In our next video, we'll look at how we use these properties to make true statements and solve equations.